Okay, Maureen, we are now officially live.
Yeah,
All
no
right, I
one
know
will
we said
ever believe what we just went through for the past half hour.
it's okay. We're on. So today's topic, the question, how soon is too soon to date after a separation, divorce, or being widowed? Now,
Yes.
one thing also to ask for some further clarity here, separation, right? So there's multiple
Yes.
meanings for separation. Separation could be a legal context of saying, okay, somebody or two couples are still divorced, but then they're agreeing to separation to still see other people, right? While going
Mhm.
through the divorce process. And then also, let's also clear the distinction between that and then people who are out in the actual dating world and perhaps just got quote unquote dumped, right? So unfortunately, again, you might be in that situation. You might be saying, okay, do I just jump into the next relationship? Do I take some time? So forth. But that's basically what we will be discussing today. So today, obviously, we've got Maureen. Thank you for joining us. She is the owner of MTN Matchmaking, the
I had
one
no
and
choice
only,
to join
the,
Friday Facebook Live. Come
the
on,
I
10
gotta say,
years.
the one and only executive certified matchmaker on Long Island, with also a physical office in Melville, New York, which is where I am now. So thanks again for joining us.
And I'm in the national office in Myrtle Beach. And this is a really important question because people come to us every day, either single, never married, separated, legally separated, divorced, or widowed. And coming to us just really and truly makes and will make your life 1,000 times easier than if you're going to try to go through this yourself. And most people already know that, but we'll be discussing it today, showing the differences and why it is different depending upon your situation. And again, why it's so much easier with us doing the screening process and the vetting for you.
Okay, so you actually bring up something also that is extremely important. Obviously, everybody is different and unique, right? Every situation is going to be different. So
Mhm.
everything that we're talking about here, obviously, again, these are our opinions, but digest some information. Again, this is something that is or can be extremely emotional, right? For everybody. I mean, in general,
Yeah.
just being emotionally ready to continue or going into a relationship, just deciding as to the exact perfect time, waiting a week, a month, months, years.
Right, right.
Um, in the unfortunate event, and we'll try to obviously remain as respectful as possible, but we're also dealing with being widowed or widowers, right? So there is a sense of grief too. So it's not just other, there's a lot of emotions with that. And then I think the biggest part, and this is where I think Maureen actually really does shine because I've seen this, by the way,
Uh-oh.
is the overall judgment or guilt, right? So a lot of times people, unfortunately, stuff happens. And again, dealing with separations, divorce, a breakup, we oftentimes go to friends and family, and we're going to be getting some interesting judgment or multiple
Yeah.
opinions here. So that is one huge benefit of using someone such as Maureen as a matchmaker, because guess what? You're not necessarily getting a friend's opinion, but you're actually getting a
Right.
professional opinion. So
Yes.
we're here to actually build your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and help you actually become a better person to then get into the perfect match in relationship.
Yes. And again, every situation is different. And that's why you really don't go and ask your friends and ask your family. You really just ask the professionals who, in a case like divorce and separation, you ask either your priest and or, like I did, your divorce attorney. So let's first start off with separated, because that's really kind of the most controversial. Okay. So there's two different types of being separated, and I am a victim of that myself. So I could talk firsthand on what it was like many, many years ago when I first got separated. I went right for the legal separation. Now, we're on Long Island, but we're all over with our friends watching, and every state is different. So just know when I'm talking about what I was told and any rules, it's based upon the laws of New York. So I was told by my attorney, okay, you signed for the legal separation. You can go and date now. Now, that did not mean how will I handle the emotions? How or when or should I get remarried again? It doesn't go through any of that. You're just kind of thrown into the mix.
Well, you're getting approval though, also, which is obviously something that's important here. So
It
you want
is
to get approval for it.
Yes, it is really important. Now, in my case, I grew up Irish Catholic with a very, very Catholic mother, you know, that you have to wait till marriage. And, I'm not going to say if that was the case with me or not, but she did believe that. And she was very, very strict. So I did, even though I had boyfriends, I did lead a very sheltered life in that department that I was too afraid to have sexual relationships like all my friends did. So when I was told, okay, you're legally separated, you're allowed to date, I had the best 3 years of my life being wild as crazy, crazy wild. I recommend this. Okay. If you are legally separated and you know you're allowed to date by your divorce attorney, okay, in New York, it's very different than other states, then I recommend doing that, especially if you grew up the way I did in a very sheltered life and, you know, you just never had that much experience with, say, sex. Okay, so have whatever makes you feel great for the longest time that you need so that you know who you are. Because when you're separated, you don't really know who you are. You've been married for however long it was. And no one can tell you what that's like or what that feels like. No one. Because every divorce and separation is different. I know with me, it was the greatest advice.
We could say that at all stages of I mean, life in itself is multiple stages. So you were definitely, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, everybody's always, it's a different character, a different person before specific events. So you were one person before you got married, then all of a sudden you started to get molded, or then obviously you've hopefully upgraded or done change while becoming a better person while being married. Unfortunately, things just don't work out, but then you ultimately again become another person, right? It's continual evolution or growth. So,
Right.
in the event in your situation, I guess you decided to let loose, as you had said, but at
Yes.
that part or at that point,
Mhm.
you learn more stuff about yourself, which is also the positive on this whole thing.
So if someone on the outside world who does not have a private upscale matchmaking agency like us helping you, just be aware of people that are just separated because you have no idea what the situation is. And I'll tell you, probably, if I had to guess, 90 something percent of the time, that person's not looking for a committed relationship. Now, when people come to MTN matchmaking, they're looking for a committed relationship. So if they come in separated, they have to be legally separated. They cannot live together in the same house. And we've had many people over the years try everything to convince me they're ready, they're ready. No, that is our rule. We've had the rule for the whole 20 years. You're not getting in. Call us back when you're legally separated, not living together, and you know you're ready for a committed relationship.
So that's actually one, I guess, a prospect that I actually had spoken to. Again, we do have our screening process, And one of the big ones is obviously confirming that you yourself are looking for a committed relationship.
Mhm.
And he or she then said yes, but then it got to the next stage. So dealing with Maureen, the screening, the ultimate deciding factor here.
Yes.
And I remember you telling me the guy or the woman basically said that they're still with or still living in the same house as the other person.
Yes.
And then right then and there, it's like, well, this unfortunately is not for you. But then, like, just as you had said, contact us a little further down the line.
Yes. And
But
that's why it's so important, not to interrupt, but when you're coming to our service, most likely Jason's going to be answering your call. He'll go through the first part of the screening process, but we have a few parts of a screening process, and we don't really share those with many people, what it actually is, but it doesn't matter. We're doing it to protect our clients. So many times someone will say to Jason, just like what happened. But then either they're sitting like this in front of me or in the office next to me. And it's a lot harder to lie to my face and to be handing me money. So the truth usually comes out in about 5 minutes when they're speaking with me. And I always say, just for the fun of it, did you happen to mention that to Jason or, one of the other team members? And it's just what happened. So here we don't even take on people that are just separated. I would just cross them off the list, and only if you yourself are looking for just fun should you even entertain that. Because like I said, I had the 3 best years of my life. I know I could just sit and talk about this for 10 hours and tell you all about how great these 30 guys were that I went out with. 30 guys. But let me just be clear. I did not, have sexual relations with all of them, but I went out with them. So on your own or here, just separated people are not allowed. Then legally separated, as what I did, it's okay on your own if you go to your attorney and you ask them, or if you're very Catholic, go to your priest, which I also did. And the priest said to me, "Oh, Maureen, you can get an annulment." And I said, Me? What? I was married 10 years. I can get an annulment? And they said, yes. And I said, what does that mean? Really? Because I really didn't even know. I said, what does it mean for my kids? There's got to be some sort of, glitch. And there was. It would mean that my kids, in God's eyes, did not have a father. No, I would not do that. Okay. So, but
that actually brings up a next big discussion here. Is ultimately we've been talking about, I guess, the ultimate decision upon the individual, right?
Yep.
And in the fortunate, and I'm saying fortunate because I'm now a newly found father, right? My baby, she's 10 and a half months now, right?
So adorable.
So she takes up my entire life at this point. But thinking of those that are legally separated and also going through the legal process of getting a divorce, depending, I guess, on the age of their children, if they have one, that has to also take a toll on everybody. It's not just on the individual; it's on the other spouse and the whole family in itself, right? Mm-hmm. So, at what point does somebody actually start to really, or how big of a weight does a child's opinion have on their parents moving forward? I mean, that's a huge impact right there.
That's great, because now that's the next part. When you're divorced, how soon is it to have a committed relationship? Okay. And again, I hope everyone realizes we're not talking about having flings and this and that. You can go do that your own, on your own. We are a private upscale matchmaking service that only deal with positive, emotionally stable, financially stable people that are looking for a committed relationship. So that's what we're targeting. So if someone now is divorced, a lot of times you think, Well, when is the right time for the committed relationship? The first thing I'm going to say is it depends. Second thing I'm going to say is don't be the first relationship. The first one is the rebound relationship. And I have dealt with thousands of singles in my 20 years, thousands. And I've heard the stories of people that were in those shoes. And then, of course, it didn't work out because they were the rebound, but they ended up here and we took care of them. Or, again, in my case, the craziest thing happened. My kids still are my life. But when I first got divorced was when I started the matchmaking industry 24 years ago. It was my kids and my business. That's it. And I did meet someone and I was going to get engaged right away. And it was way too hard for my one son, my oldest. And now for me, that's all I had to hear. And I ended it. Done.
So I'm curious. So obviously, again, children or kids being at different ages, right? So different
They were
age
young.
groups. I'm thinking about, let's just say, a 5-year-old, right? So 5 years old, they're able to have discussions. They're able to
Yeah.
have a good understanding as to what's going on. Regardless, we know that they're good at seeing emotions. I mean, if I stub my toe and my baby sees it, she looks at me like, is she in pain now?
Mhm.
So they can obviously read your emotions.
Yes.
But how big of a weight does someone at 5-year-old, as a 5-year-old, say, oh, what's happening with mommy? What's happening with daddy? Or where are you going? What are you doing? Or what's going on? Versus then someone that is, let's use like the legal age of 18, being like, okay, I'm an adult, dad, mom, whatever it might be. What are you doing?
Right.
Does a child at 5 have a higher weight as opposed to someone that's 18, that's older, or how do you, just using those two age
And
groups?
that's such a great question. And that comes up all the time. And that's why I said in the beginning, it always just depends. Because in my case, my kids were that age. So when Brendan said that to me, I said, okay. And he asked me, would I wait to get remarried again until he was out of that house that he grew up in and on his own? I said yes, without any question. Hence also the 3 years of the greatest fun of my life. But anyway, still, because I knew, hey, I can't get married until my son is successful on his own out of the house. And so
I think
that
that's I
happened.
think that's another aspect too, I guess. So getting back into the whole dating world, and then perhaps bringing that into the house, right, where everybody used to be. So obviously, that's going to be a whole nother condition in itself.
Yes. And there is a rule of thumb, which I want to get into in a second after this, because it's very important for people going through a divorce. But so at that age, I'm going to say it's too young to go by what your kids are saying, because last year, Brendan's 29. He was 28 at the time. He got his master's, a great job. He's living on his own. He's the happiest he's ever been. I sell the house. I get the condo in Myrtle Beach. I go national. It's my time. And I called it Chapter 2, My Time. And I had a talk with Brendan saying, okay, it's mommy's time now. Now I'm going to start looking for love for me, because I've been doing it for everyone else for 20 years. It's my time. And Brendan looked at me so serious and said, it's about time. And I go, what do you mean it's about time? You asked me not to get remarried again until you're out of the house. You're just out of the house now. And he goes, Mom, I was a kid. Why did you listen to me? I was a kid. Look, my whole life, I did what I thought was right for, say, a 5-year-old, to make that 5-year-old feel safe and happy when years later he doesn't even remember it. So you have to take those things into consideration. Okay. Now, also with dating, if you have young kids, the biggest question is how soon do you recommend entering or showing your kids this new person in your life? And it's probably the biggest question that people ask us when they come in or with me as a dating coach. Now, if you go to any psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, they're all going to tell you 6 months, wait until you show your child. We're not talking about someone 25 years old, your kids. We're talking about you have young kids. Wait at least 6 months and wait until you think that that relationship is going to be a relationship. Now, that's great advice. Hardly anyone follows it, but I tell people on the outside world, if I do lectures, etc., they should follow that. But here, with what we do, everything happens quicker because we already know that I'm making sure people are going to be compatible in 3 ways with their 5 must-haves. And for a relationship, you have to be compatible and have chemistry. Chemistry is easy. You find someone hot or beautiful. Well, it may not be easy for some people, but it's pretty easy for that. Compatibility is the hardest. So here with our program, I've noticed that in 6 months, people really are getting engaged. Here, if they're going out with someone for a month, they already know they're compatible. So if they have chemistry, because that's the question. So if you're dating with MTN matchmaking, you know you're compatible through my method, and you have chemistry, you have a really good chance of getting engaged in the 6 month mark. And I've seen it happen. And behind you, Jason, or actually, Jason moved around the furniture. Great job, by the way. I was just there last week, and I come every 3rd week. There's 2 big, huge frames that are, you didn't hang them up, but they're on the floor. One of them is this beautiful letter of a girl that thanked me and said, when I told her the 6 month mark is possible, she didn't believe it that day, but 6 months to the day it worked. So again, this is about though dating with young kids. Here, if you're dating for a month and you know you're on hold together, then you can do that. So
I think ultimately this is going to have to be an entire video in itself because that, this we could talk about it for some time.
yeah, but that's
But I
the
think
answer.
I
So
think
just
another
sure.
I
Right.
think another big part though, however, was and we've seen this where so I guess first there's 2 parts. One, we have actually seen prospects, so not our clients but prospects, or have heard the stories
You mean
where
people that I kick
that
out or don't take on? Is that
or
what you mean?
people
And you're trying to be nice?
or people we haven't taken on yet, where they would go out on a date, and then unbeknownst to them, not even know that the person that they're on a date with has kids, or then on the worst side, perhaps doesn't want to date somebody that does have kids, right?
Right. Yeah.
So right then and there, again, there could be just miscommunication or wrong information
Or
on
deceit on the outside world.
or that
And
part.
look, I can admit that during those 3 crazy months of mine, I wasn't looking for the committed relationship. So when I met a guy and went out with him, I didn't say on the first date, oh, by the way, I have 2 young kids at home with my dad babysitting. And so, a real quick, funny story is I still had my minivan, and the guy walked me to the car, sees the minivan, and he goes, do you want to sit in the back? And I look and I see all the kids' toys. I'm like, no. And I had to come clean. I have 2 young kids. Okay. So again, don't be deceitful, especially if you have kids when you're dealing with situations like this. Put your kids first, but not to the extent that I did. Now, being widowed.
The other part that I actually had here, because this was actually a question that we had from somebody was
Oh,
whether
I
or
love
not
when people write it.
whether or not whether or not they want to discuss the fact that they have hired or plan to use a matchmaker with their children. So again, I guess going back to somebody that has kids that are 5, 6, 7, and again, I'm trying to be mutually respectful here. They're not going to fully understand it, but someone that has teenagers, young adults, that kind of goes into being wary of a judgment call or then like guilt. All of a sudden you tell your kids, I'm thinking about meeting somebody, or I'm actually thinking about hiring a matchmaker. There might be some fight there. They may agree with you, right? But you also have to think about yourself and what you ultimately want to do. So that's a huge key factor here.
And especially, so when you're divorced, that's definitely going to be an issue. But if the kids are older, they'll see, oh my gosh, my mom went out on 10 horrific dates or heard about that. I'm worried about her. The safety of what we do in the felony check should put kids at ease. But the third part that we're talking about now is apropos, because now let's talk about when someone's widowed. Because speaking of guilt, and again, I could talk even on a personal level. First, let me just say, my dad was the greatest man in the world. I could cry. God, don't cry, don't cry. Okay, so my dad was married. They were married 50 years. And all he did was babysit for all of us and our kids. And of course, he was happy. But I realized, is he really happy? He's 70. All these women would come up to him and like almost attack him because he was a single man now, and they do it right in front of me. And I would be fighting these girls. Leave my dad alone. Beat it. It was crazy. So I gave my dad 5 years because they were married 50 years, and my father only knew my mother, as far as dating.
So do you think that a year per decade?
Again, it depends, but it depends because here we have a large family, youngest of 6 kids. My father devoted his whole life to my mom. He doted on her. He treated her like a queen, like she was. My mother was like the mafia queen, as a great way to describe her. But so I gave my dad 5 years, and I said, Dad, you have to do the program. Have to. My whole family, they were furious with me. They said, how dare you use your business for Dad? He was married to Mom for 50 years. And I'm like, that was 5 years ago. All he does is come over and help you with electricity or your plumbing or anything you need. My father knew how to fix anything. If you
Just
needed
like you said
scissor,
before,
he could take it out of his pocket. Like my father was, and he was the strongest man in the world too. Like figure Clint Eastwood. That was my dad. The strongest man, and everyone loved him, and the greatest father. So my family, they were mad at me in the beginning, but it took me only 3 matches to find him Lynn, and Lynn doted on my dad. Could you imagine a man his whole life treating his wife like a queen and then having a beautiful woman doting on him? So all they did was they went traveling together. And they didn't get a chance to travel a lot. They had 6 kids. So they took a cruise, I would say in like 3 months, because again, I matched them up in my program. So he knew she was safe, etc. When they came back from the cruise to Alaska and showed us the whole family, it was around Christmas time, the 100 of pictures, everyone in my family apologized to me and said, wow, you were right. I never saw Dad this happy before, ever. And it was a beautiful thing. So
That should be
When
your number one success story right there. That's it. Just lead with
it,
that.
it really is. I have so many, and I've been asked that question a lot. What's my favorite? It's got to be that, obviously. But now, when someone's widowed, the factor that you have to figure out is, have you had the talk with one another, and how long was the marriage? Because if you were married and you didn't have the talk yet, as far as, I want you to, I know I'm sick. Thank you for taking care of me. You're too young to be alone. You're too good. I want you to find someone. Then I don't care. If it's a day later, you go out to MTN Matchmaking and you let us find you someone that deserves you. Because if you're a man, you're a king and you deserve love. Your wife knew it. She wanted it. It's not something your kids will approve of, but this should be private. And it's deserved because life is too short. We
I
all know,
think that I think that discussion is also good to have. And so instead of having like a what if type things, right? And again, it could be somewhat of an awkward
it's
conversation,
very
but
awkward.
again,
Should have it.
it's something that should happen, right?
Yes, it should happen if you know you're sick. Now, say if you did not have the talk, there's the standard rule that everyone knows about. Wait a year after your spouse passes. So if you didn't have that talk, and especially if you have kids, just do the year, just out of respect for your kids. If you want to do a little bit less time, come to us where we are protecting you, keeping you safe. But no one's ever going to say this is too soon or this is dangerous. Not here, not with us doing it. But again, if God forbid you're in a marriage and you're sick, just please make sure you do that. Because I have a friend of mine. It's okay. She's my best friend, but she never watches this anyway. Now, she didn't have the talk. So she doesn't feel comfortable dating because of that. So now here
Well,
she's
it's
giving
also just
respect.
time. You got to give some time, and maybe that will also
Yeah.
change. So
So, just if you think of all those things and those variables, just know in your heart what's the right thing to do, because we work every day on finding committed relationships for great quality people. If you're looking to just fool around, you don't need us. Hey, Natalie, girl. Natalie, she says all the time. She also did my hair today. Thank you, Natalie, at Cut Bang Blow, I think. Love that name. What's the name of it again? Cut Bang and Blow in Myrtle Beach. Now, let me just say, when I came here and started my chapter 2, I took my own advice on certain things. For example, before people start dating, I say that you should try everything for the first 6 months before you come and hire us. Because when you hire us, it's going to be done. We're doing the work for you.
one of the first questions I also ask is if they have used any of the dating apps or have actually signed up for any of the other platforms. And you do suggest they do use those
Yes.
prior to using
For
the service,
6
though.
months, try everything first. Because you want all the crazy stuff that's going to hit the fan, and it will hit the fan, and it happened to even me. But just remember, a dentist cannot do his own teeth. Good one, right?
It's a good analogy. Yeah, there you
A
go.
dentist has to go to another dentist. So with me thinking, okay, I'm going to take my own advice, that own advice was trying every single thing on my own for 6 months with the hope it happens. But realistically, 6 months is not a long time. And it's going to be very, 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 very hard because not only are you not going to know if you're compatible for 6 months, you won't know if that person has passed our screening process. And even me, I made up this screening process 20 years ago. But the difference is, if I'm meeting someone in a personal level, I'm not interviewing that person as a matchmaker for myself. First of all, I couldn't do that. No guy would put up with that, right? Imagine being drilled on a date.
Not going to work out.
Right. You know how many times over the years, I wasn't looking for a committed relationship anyway, but I've had so many guys say to me, "Oh God, I could never go out with you. Never. You'll know everything I do wrong. You'll be a dating coach throughout everything, blah, 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 blah." Yes. But the difference is really that when people are in our office and they're paying to join, I can then use my former pharmaceutical rep experience of assessing personality styles in 5 minutes, because we only had 7 minutes with the doctor. But on my own, I don't have that luxury because I'm not charging them to be in this program. Now, in hindsight, looking back, that person would have never passed my screening process. So the funny thing about Natalie answering with a widow or a separation, she just means anything. So whatever. Natalie said the whole time, a person should be waiting 3 years. Now, I don't agree with that in our program, obviously. And on the outside world, my mindset was thinking, but I'm using my own advice. I have to try every single thing for 6 months to see if it works. And I did do that, but it didn't work. But it did make me realize even more how valuable what we do every day is. And with every single female and man in our program that's around my age, I get it. I get what it's like dating now. And I could promise you it is 1,000 times easier in our program, because we're only dealing with people looking for a committed relationship. So just to end this part with Natalie, I still don't agree with having to wait 3 years because life is too short. But
let's end this on another interesting note. So the last part, let's just say that we're not dealing with the legal route of separation, divorce. We're not dealing with the unfortunate event of being a widowed. We're dealing with just a breakup, right? So if someone just broke up, do you feel that, obviously, again, there's different dynamics, different variables for that in itself, but for someone that just said, okay, this relationship didn't work out, things ended fine, how long do you think somebody should wait, or what do you think those next steps should be?
Well, what's the example? Say a divorce? Because
no, let's say excluding all of those. Let's just say someone that's in their 20s, early 30s, not married, never engaged. They're just out there. Maybe they're in a year relationship, a 6-month relationship,
great
2 years.
Question. Wow. Okay, so just remember, you never want to be rebound girl or rebound guy. It usually never works. And look at your friends that have tried this, because it's everyone that is that rebound person ends up single. Or I would say I have seen about 90%. And so again, let me just say to end this, it was a good thing that I did take my own advice for the 6 months, because I would rather find out now why it didn't work. Does that make sense? Because just say
my opinion on it is just to make sure that you're ready. That's it. A lot of times you might, again, there's the grief part, there's the part that where you're upset. Maybe there's the egotistical part, like I got to get back to them, get back at them, whatever it is. But I mean, I've seen people that they would break up and then the next day or a couple of days they would then try to find somebody else.
Right.
Again, it's all the mindset. But
Oh, and
um,
also, we should say, when you are dating, say a situation like you're saying, or any of these situations, don't go out and when you have, say, 5 breakups, say after each one, done.
yeah,
And then, all right, I'll give another chance. Done. Then another chance.
no more
5 times.
chances. That's it.
No. One, perhaps. Okay. Because here in our program, the fact is there is so much miscommunication between dating, not because of these things that we've talked about, because that's not a factor in our program, but just personality styles. After it happens once, don't waste your time. That person is not going to change. And it's hard and it sucks, but that's what it's like dating on your own out there. I've lived it. I'm so glad I'm done with my 6 months. Now I'm looking for my own certified matchmaker who's going to match me. How about you, Jason? What do you think? You want to take on the challenge of matching up?
Is this for Myrtle Beach or Long Island? Depends.
Myrtle Beach only. Otherwise, I'd be dating half the guys in our program because they're all so great. Our guys on Long Island are so great. If I was okay with the cold weather, and by the way, I'm compatible to really for them. And I've talked to some of them about
Natalie. Natalie's saying she might be able to help you out.
Natalie,
that's a whole nother conversation in itself.
I love our friendship, Natalie. I admit I am the most annoyingest person in the world, and half the time I'm annoying. I do it on purpose, just for the fun of it. I would not want to ruin our friendship. But hey, Asa, how are you? So what about you, Asa? You want to match me up with someone? But so to answer your question, Jason, I want to have a committed relationship now that it's chapter 2, my time, not in a selfish way, but I did what I did for my kids. I'm happy I did it. I built up my business, that we are the best matchmaking service on Long Island. And we have great news that we found out last week that we won Best Matchmaker again for New York City.
There you go. I think we have the plaque too for that. We got to put all that up.
Yes, which we have to put the rest of them up too. Oh, and I left some of the frames there, the white frames. Okay. So that's what they're there for.
You're going to be running out of space on these walls.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I just love what I do so much. But again, we need someone, a matchmaker in Myrtle Beach, who can match me up. And I always recommend, I'm not going to share it today time-wise, but when you are looking for someone, you should be a positive person. If you're not, damn well get positive. Do whatever it takes to get yourself positive. No one wants to be with a negative Nelly, and no one will be with one. Otherwise, that person's going to be just as negative as you. Your life is going to be miserable. So
you got to get yourself into a positive mindset, be financially set, and most importantly, emotionally ready for it.
Emotionally stable. And that's the biggest thing, because you might even think, I'm ready. Because I believe that I don't think there was any malice whatsoever in the person's answers to me. I do think that he meant it when he said, oh, you're not going to be rebound. I'm ready for that. So again, you just don't know it unless here people are paying for it. But in that case, when you're dating someone, make sure you are emotionally stable before you even talk about a committed relationship. Because there's thousands of people on the internet sites that will have sex with anybody. If
Yeah, that's a
you're
whole
good
nother
looking
video
or
too.
if you have money. What?
It's a whole nother video in itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, anybody. But so keep the positivity up. Make yourself positive if you're not. Make sure you're emotionally stable. Get your life in order financially. If it means getting a second job, my Uber driver, I met the greatest guy the fifth time done. I met the greatest guy next to me. Like how, like the stars could, I know it's my mother in
That's
heaven.
because of your life coaching and your manifestation techniques. That's it.
Yes, seriously, right next to me. You can't make that up. And then I had to get an Uber. Okay. Um, and again, I couldn't remember my address because I don't even know where I am here. I finally, after
Discombobulated.
2 months, knew I better change my address. So I went to the post office yesterday to change my address, and I wrote the wrong address for my last address. Oh. Okay, so the Uber driver at the end asked me out. He said, "Look, I'm going to the bar right across the street here from you, blah, blah, blah. Can I take you out?" I'm like, what's happening? What?
Thanks for the drive, buddy. That's it.
I think my mother was like throwing me some bones or throwing me some crumbs from heaven to like help me get through that. But anyway, so make sure, like, if you're not financially stable, get a second job as an Uber driver. That's the greatest thing in the world to make money. Or delivering food. I haven't gotten food shopping in years. I had my brother Kevin when I used to work all the time at home because he's a retired NYPD. And he's just the greatest brother in the world. Um, so just that's a great job for a second job. So get yourself in
I
that
got the
mindset.
second job is that you're actually hiring somebody. We need an assistant here, so that's a good plug for that.
Yes, we need a full timer and a part timer too, along with us and the rest of our team. Now, again, we need a go getter. We need an overachiever. We need someone that their last job or career, if there were awards, they won every award. They wanted to win every award. That's what we need. And it is the greatest career in the world. Having people that just this week alone, too, I guess it is manifesting because I did start my life coaching program all over again. And boy, it works like that. And I'm sharing it with you. Did you start it yet?
Me? No, I didn't start it yet.
You have to.
I'm working on my sleep now that I can.
Okay, well,
right.
Anyone out there, please, I have the greatest life coach in the world, Tiffany. If you want her number, please let me know. I'll be happy to give you her number because life coaching and this program that she recommends, it really does work. So, and I think she's watching today too. So, hi, Tiffany.
I actually have a note here, and I think this is a good way to end it. But
Maureen, stay off Facebook. Which, let me just say, I apologize to anyone that I hurt because I made a mistake a couple of days ago when this last I'm done. I did something that I would never normally do. I wrote how hurt I was on Facebook. Never, ever do that. I know not to do it. I've told people a million times, never do it. It's a low class thing to do.
You let your ego get to you. That's it.
What?
You let your ego get to you. That's it. You gotta knock it out.
Yeah. So I apologize to every person. Well, first of all, by writing it, my mother again blessing me. I have about 30 people now as new friends that want to meet me because they would never do something like that. So imagine that, when one door closes, another one opens. But I'm just going to say again, as I've said to people for years, never write anything on Facebook that will hurt someone. I did it. I took it off, I think, an hour later when I realized it. It was such a low class thing for me to do. And I feel horrible about it and want to take it back, but you can't.
We're
Thank
always
God
learning.
it's somebody out there an hour. But I'm
Another
going
thing
to
to learn.
nice. I learned a very, very hard lesson that I'm sure there's people that lost respect for me, but most importantly, I lost respect for myself. So just don't ever make the mistakes that I've done. So there you go.
Well,
On
I'm
a
gonna end
positive note, though,
I'm
I
gonna
have
end
a,
it.
I have a date with the guy Sunday who was next to me.
Well, there you go. So now Natalie can match you up now.
Well, no. One date is not going to do it. We're certainly going to take this slow, and you're going to have to interview him, Jason. You're going
Pass
to
the
have
screening.
to, yeah, you're going to have to do the screening process. You're going to have to see if we're compatible, all of that.
Well, let's do it. All right. So today's video: how soon is too soon to date after a separation, divorce, or being widowed or widower? I actually have. This isn't necessarily a quote, but I was actually just having notes before. But I think this is important to say. I think this will hit certain people harder. But as a phrase, it's okay to prioritize your own happiness and well being. So think about that. It's okay to prioritize your own happiness and well being. Focus on yourself. Don't let others get into your head. Don't always depend upon others. Depend upon yourself. It's all about your own self journey, your own self growth. You'll feel much better about yourself going forward and start just caring about yourself. Got to do that.
In the aspect of when you're finding love, that you have
Everything.
Yes. But when you're looking for love, it doesn't matter what so and so thinks or so and so. You're never going to please everyone. You have to go with what your heart and your brain are telling you. But again, with us, I know how great care we take of our clients and how much we love our clients. And especially now, I appreciate what we do even more because I see the benefits. So if you're single, check out our website, mtnmatchmaking.com, and follow us every Friday. Watch all of our social media.
Ask questions here. Send us fill out the contact form. Ask questions there. We might use one of them to actually have one of these live Facebook feeds specifically to answer your question.
I have to mention in August, please, if you live on Long Island, I will be doing a seminar as I do every year.
September, not August.
Oh, yeah, sorry. September 22nd, it is going to be how to increase your love and sex life after 50. Okay. How to help you with that. And it's always a lot of fun because I make it interactive as well. Is Asa doing that or is that you, Jason?
I'm doing it, but he's helping out too.
Asa does do stuff like this though for us. Really?
There we go.
So Asa, you must have hurt your arm or something and that's why you can't do it. But we're also going to be hosting a singles lounge there at this great over 50 fair. And you really don't have to be over 50. And it's not a singles fair. So if you live on Long Island, contact me on Facebook and ask me for a free ticket. And I will get you all a free ticket if you ask on our Facebook Live here. Now, again, the tickets are only $5. But still, I will get you a free ticket. And you'll come to our booth. You can try to win a raffle. You'll hang out in our singles lounge where we're going to have music, and you'll attend my fun seminar, how to improve your love and sex life after 50. So have a great weekend, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. And
We'll see you guys next week, next Friday. That's it.
yep, and just be safe out there dating. I'm going to change my rule that I have for 20 years. Instead of trying everything for 6 months, I'm going to change it to do it for 3 months, because you'll know in 3 months, I need help in this, because it is the most important thing in our lives, finding love. And saying you need help doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. We just don't have the control that with other people. So yeah, we need help, but we're the ones that'll give you that help. So give us a call, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. Bye.
See you next week. Bye.